Okay, let's break this down, okay? Because you have families and individuals who they may not already know that they need some sort of help, some sort of therapy to get through some emotional challenges, right? Traumas, etc. There are so many different types of mental health therapists. So how would a regular person who knows they want to seek assistance, right? Who do they look for? What type of therapist would a person look for?
Well, I think first is identifying a different type of people that provide, I guess, talk therapy or counseling, right? Because that's the base of what we think of, and that's the place to start. Often, sometimes people might skip to thinking, now that I have mental health issues, let me go see a psychiatrist and start the medication process. And sometimes I advise against that because people might get medication, but not get the therapy to support that.
Right.
And not getting psychoeducation, the medication management, or the tools to manage and maintain so they become reliant on medication.
So what do? Google therapist?
So they Google therapist. I think a good place to start is Psychology Today. It's very common.
Okay.
It's easy to navigate. It's universal. So whoever is looking for what they're looking for, and then you might find yourself coming across, I guess, 3 major titles or letter backgrounds. So you have your LCSW, which is a licensed clinical social worker. Specific to that comparison to a licensed master social worker is that I'm able to, I guess, govern myself. I don't need any immediate supervision. I've gone the testing, the licensing to, if I provide a diagnosis, it's supported, and that falls on me. So if there's any mistakes in that, there's any liability, I'm the person that's accountable or responsible, also allows me at some point in time to provide supervision. So LMSW will be a person that is kind of fresh out of school. They pass their licensing exam. They're in the practice of providing therapy, but they need some oversight or supervision. And so therefore you might also go to LMSW. Doesn't mean that they're less qualified, but they're still having some oversight, which might be beneficial because they can go to their supervisor and talk about a specific case and get insight. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. So in the field of social work, you have LMSWs, you have your LCSWs. Licensed clinical social workers are fully licensed. LMSWs are kind of junior licensed or associate licensed, and they have to be supervised. And then you have your LPCs, your licensed professional counselors, which provide more, talk-based therapy as well. I think what differentiates social workers from professional counselors is don't misspoke, because I know sometimes there's some kind of back and forth between social workers and counselors, but I was told to go into social work because it's more versatile. I worked in community healthcare clinics, and so at the time I went to the CEO was also like an aunt to me, and I was like, "Would you help me pay for school? I'm thinking about going to school for counseling." It's like, "We'll go to school for social work because of the versatility." And so, for instance, I used to work in HIV, and we do a lot of trainings in HIV, and a lot of the trainers, their supervisors were social workers. Clinical social workers. You'll be in a community healthcare clinic or a clinic in general, and you might have a social worker, licensed clinical social worker that runs your mental health department. There's admin duties. So not everything within a social worker has to be one-to-one directly clinical. So that's one thing that for those who are seeking the profession or want to know which way to go, that's something to consider, that there's a little bit more versatility in social work than just providing direct one-to-one counseling. Counselors, I think, is more so on counseling and providing therapy or talk therapy in that regard. And I know they have associate licensed counselors as well. I don't know if it works the same as that they're able to provide counseling and need the supervision, but I believe it's a similar situation.
So they probably wouldn't know who they might need until they reach out to someone.
Yes.
And be directed and steered into
if you in your search and you've run across an LMFT, LPC, a social worker, for the most part, if you're just general search, those would be good looks for you. I mean, even some psychologists, now that they have more extensive means of education, sometimes they have more research-based backgrounds, so they might do more of the intensive assessments. And so, for instance, like if I see signs of a kid having ADHD, I might refer them and say, let's go get them a psych evaluation to further determine what that looks like, and then we start the process of IEP, 504, or whatever that might look like.
Got it.
Also, for more developmental-based mental health issues, things that are more intense and need really intensive testing, that you might get a PhD or a PsyD or a psychiatrist, and then you have a psychiatrist. And one we forgot is the LMFTs, the licensed marriage and family therapists.
So I'm going to be real. This sounds very confusing.
Of course.
Because, and which is unfortunate, because it's kind of like, if I'm in a crisis, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Or at a limit, I don't know. There's so many different options. I don't know, who who to start off with?
I mean, well, it's partially.
Do you start off with a counselor or a social worker, or do you start off with a psychologist? Like,
I think start off with a counselor or social worker.
so that might be a barrier, I think. Probably,
Yeah,
right? A
definitely. Or
barrier
just
to
a means of
getting
understanding,
therapy.
or it can be intimidating when you look at all these, letters. Right. And what do they mean? So again, LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapists, like that. I think they gear more towards like couples and things of that sort, which I don't do, but that may be what it is. So, and then sometimes if you know specifically what you're looking for, which can be confusing for the layperson, right? I'm stressed. What does that mean? Do I have anxiety? Is it situational? Is it generational? What does that look like? How do I go about it? Is it post-traumatic stress? Is it due to trauma? So the first thing I think is just to start looking for someone.
Got it.
And going through your selection process and sitting with, because beyond the letters, it also comes down to a goodness of fit.
Absolutely.
And so oftentimes I think what really steers people away, that taking the next step to actually seek somebody out, is it's not a good fit. And not knowing how to either communicate that or not knowing how to navigate that. And so then what do you do? Because like you said, I'm in crisis. Because it's seldom that people are like, oh, I'm feeling great today, let me go see my therapist. Which is what you should do.
Right, correct.
But oftentimes when a person starts their journey of seeking out therapy, it's simply in a crisis. So they're noticing, some inconsistencies in their life.
Okay.